Ridge and Valley Fantasy Football owners, another week is complete, and this is your Week 4 review in the Ridge and Valley Fantasy Football League. We'll start off with our matchup of the week, which consisted of one of the only two unbeaten teams left in the Ridge and Valley, which was Jake Ritter and the Inebriated Assassins against Justin Gatiss and his Pink Crustaceans team. Jake Ritter remains unbeaten as he wins the matchup of the week 114 to 104. Victor Cruz had another big day for Gatos with 28.5 points. It just wasn't enough last week to pull out the win. Tony Romo scores 23 for Jake, and the Inebriated Assassins remain unbeaten at 4-0 with the 114 to 104 win in the matchup of the week. In other matchups, the Ford Brother Bowl 2 is won by Joe Ford. Joe Ford has beaten his older brother for 2 years in a row. This is just an absolutely demoralizing loss for myself. It was an ugly, ugly game. Neither team looks good at all, as Joe Ford wins 75.5 to 49. Those were the two lowest scores actually in the Ridge and Valley this week, and they went against each other. Joe Ford moves on to 2-2, and myself, the Gobble Gobble Bitches, is 1-3, and I'm officially in panic mode. George Hamilton took on Joey Cotner and his auto draft team, the Winchester's finest, and he pours out a squeaker by a half of a point. George Hamilton remains unbeaten at 96.5 to 96. Funny thing about that matchup, if Cotner would have started his typical tight end Pettigrew over Escobar, whoever for some reason he subbed in the last minute at tight end, he probably, or actually he would have won that matchup. Instead, George Hamilton remains unbeaten with the half-point win at 4-0. Cotner moves to 2-2. Dave Gardner wins 111 to 109 as his Too Much Johnson for You team beats Robert Reed and the Emerald Beagles. Robert Reed's 1-3. Dave Gardner improves to 2-2. Justin Colton snags his first win of the Ridge and Valley Fantasy Football season, winning 91 to 85.5 over Phil Carpenter and the Fighting Notebooks. Carpenter still continues to struggle to find wins. However, Colton does snag his first win of the year for the Bad News K9 Brawlers. Both teams are now 1-3. The defending champ Kirk Whittle wins in a shootout over Jeff Cooper and the Stephen Beamans, 118 to 110.5. Lou Lacey continues to look solid with the third best record in the league. He's the only owner now with a 3-1 record, a one-loss record. Win one for the Kipper, wins 110 to 103 over Timmy Garlitz and No Snap It's Bigfoot. Timmy Garlitz drops to 1-3. Those were your scores for Week 4. Now on to the power rankings. You can see the full power ranking list on Ridge and Valley's website or on the fantasy page on ESPN.com. The top three are, of course, at 1 and 2, the two unbeatens. George Hamilton at 1 and Jake Ritter at 2. They are also the second and first highest fantasy scores of the season thus far. And then at 3, there's really no argument in these top 3, is Lou Lacey, because he is the only team with a one-loss record and the third highest amount of fantasy points scored thus far. So there's really no debate as far as who the top 3 are this year so far in the Fantasy Football League in the Ridge and Valley. The bottom 3, at number 12, Robert Reed with a 1-3 record. Myself, the Gobble Gobble Bitches at number 13 with a 1-3 record, officially in panic mode after that demoralizing loss this past week. And even though Justin Colton snags his first win of the season, the Bad News K9 Brawlers remains at dead last with a 1-3 record as well. We have some Week 5 predictions and Week 5 matchup of the week coming up soon, so be sure to look out for those upcoming analysis for Week 5 matchups. And good luck to all the Ridge and Valley Fantasy Football owners as we continue the 2013 season.